Welcome, everybody. This is Wednesday, October 9th at 4 p.m. This is our second budget meeting. So you all have an updated budget from some of the changes we made at our first budget meeting. There are some new developments. I did hear from the Morley Fire District. And this was in an email that I had sent to you. Morley Fire District, they still will have to get the paperwork to Heidi. They have to hold their meeting and legally notice that they're going to be increasing the taxes by 2%. So it's gonna go from 14,151 to 14,430. So that's the number I've been given, so we'll adjust the budget to that effect. Any questions on that?
I have the option, figure that it's offset by revenue, right?
Yeah, it's just a wash.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the expense and the revenue side. So that's under special fire.
But give me those numbers again. From what?
So right now it's 14,151,
Yep.
and then we're gonna switch it to 14,000.
430, okay. Yeah.
So that change will have to be in this second budget. But again, they have to do paperwork and Heidi, when they drop it off, we have to have two copies of it. One stays with Heidi and then one I need to submit to the county when I send a past budget. Everybody good with that one?
Mhm.
All right, the second item, well, I made the changes that we talked about at a last meeting, but I also included, in order to balance the highway budget, I included the additional revenue from EWR, Pave New York, and the POP money. So that revenue has been put back in here.
Oh, this hasn't been put back in. This is
We
the
did- we
first
did-
time it's been put in.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So it's not been put back in. This is a first, this is a first for those to be going in under revenues
Yes.
in our budget.
Angela. Good afternoon. For the revaluation, I did as the board directed. I did reach out to GAR. And because it's a potential contractual agreement that needs to be negotiated, and it's a personnel issue that we need to talk about in executive session. So, but I wanted to make sure that I have a full understanding that we're moving forward with the reval. I'm opening that back up because there was discussion at our first budget meeting about this. I did send you an email from the mayor regarding the village's position on it as well. I fully support moving forward with doing a revaluation.
So I think the questions that I asked at that meeting haven't been answered. And they won't be answered until we have the executive session. Because still don't have a value, how much is it gonna cost
Okay,
to do it, so.
so we'll table
I'm good-
that till
I'm good
after.
on that until we go into executive session and talk about what the cost of it's gonna be.
Okay. All right, I also reached out to Canton Central and I sent you that information. That this current budget does not show revenue from Canton Central. But we can revisit it, but because it has to do with a possible negotiated agreement. And it has to do with personnel, we need to talk about that in executive session as well. We're increasing more than fire district. So that's all I have, right?
Alright, so what you've mentioned so far, I'm not gonna agree with putting EWR, ops and paved New York in under revenues. It's never been in under revenues. In all the years I've sat on board, it's always been a political football at the state level. When they negotiate the state budget, and there's always been a question about whether they're gonna be in there. I mean, there are things that have been added, you know. EWR is extreme weather, you know, from the bad storms in the winter time. What if all of a sudden, you know, just things are all pretty calm, you know, across the state, you know, I say, well, why are we giving them this extra money? You know, we haven't had any extreme weather. But essentially what we're doing, if we agree to what Mary Ann wants to do, essentially what we're doing is when we started the budget discussions the last time, we were under the assumption that highway construction budget was gonna be increased from 800,000 to 900,000. Well, that's already gone away, and so the actual figure is 807. That's in the budget. If you take those three items and put them in under revenue, and you do not automatically include them under expenses, under construction, what you've basically done is balance the budget using that, so you've taken that 192,000 away from construction. So that figure is going to drop considerably from what we spent this year on construction. So we've been praising highway all year about how the fact that we got 6 miles of work done. Included in that was $119,000 of monies that we got from NIPA for work that, or for damages that they did to roads. So we used that and put it back into construction. That would help. So now, and I think we ended up with about $1 million for construction when we got all said and done. So that $1 million is going to drop dramatically. And so if we budget the 807,000 for construction, 500,000 of that is coming from CHIPS, EWR, and whatever.
Pops and paved New York.
And only 300,000 of it will be contributed locally. Now, there's probably some municipalities that they pave the roads with just CHIPS monies. I don't know. But I would think that, you know, most of them are trying to stay in that, you know, 50-50 split or whatever the case might be. If we put them in there, we will definitely take a big hit and go backwards in road construction. I mean, it is what it is. I'm just saying, that's what's gonna happen. I mean, budgets need to be balanced. But if that's how you wanna balance them, that's how you wanna balance it. Okay. But again, as I pointed out before, we're raising $16,000 in additional monies. The figure that was 25,000 in salary increases at the last budget meeting, now it's 40.
Well, that
So-
number's changed as I sent the email.
I said it's 40, that's
Yeah.
it, so it's been corrected to 40.
Yeah.
So if you're only increasing the amount of revenues from increased assessed valuation in taxes by $16,000. And your expenditures on salaries alone go up by 40. Well, you're the mathematician. That's $24,000 shortfalls, right? They're going, and so
So
That's-
in order to balance the highway budget, I proposed an additional position to be created. And that's about $100,000 item. So we had to do some juggling to do that.
So,
So now the board needs to decide. Do you want to accept my proposal for an additional position? Or do you want to, cut it and put the money into construction? Or do you want to, increase taxes substantially, which is, even if we go to $3 from the $296 that's proposed, that's still not a lot of money.
it's still not a lot, but it's still not a lot of money, but at least it's not out of line. If you went up 6 cents, we're not even going up a penny. We're not even going up, but that's the other thing that a question I need to ask you, is you made the statement at the last budget meeting that the reason our tax cap, because of the revenues from solar,
Mhm.
that's affected the tax cap, so we can't even raise our tax rate by even a penny?
Not unless we pass the new law.
Question is, you said by adding those revenues for solar in there,
Mhm.
that's why we can only go to $2.95.9
To max out the tax cap.
to max out the tax cap. So if those revenues have done that to us, what are those three revenues of 192,000 for POP CWR that have traditionally not been in the budget? Those revenues are not gonna affect the tax cap. Why would the revenues from solar affect that, but not the revenues from EWR that we have traditionally not included in the budget? Why would those revenues not affect the tax cap also? And does that mean that we'd actually have to reduce the tax rate to stay under the tax cap? I don't know. How can you, if one revenue is going to cause that tax rate to be this, and you said it's because of the revenues from solar, what does those additional 193,000 in POPs, EWR, and Pave New York gonna do to that?
We've traditionally we haven't put them in, Jim, but we've traditionally taken the money out of fund balance.
I don't know.
So it didn't increase the taxes, or the tax cap, formula, that when we put in, the tax formula, it doesn't affect it.
The calculation for tax cap, if you don't mind, Marion, if I can just walk them through,
Yeah.
is basically takes the levy and it does some adjustment items. The CHIPS money is not an adjustment item. There's two items that are adjusted for, that are come from the comptroller's office. And then you have to adjust for pilot money only. Those are the only revenues that impact the calculation of the tax cap, is the pilot money.
And
So
is
if-
that because those are payments in lieu of taxes?
Payment in lieu of
And,
taxes, that is correct.
this is not payment
This
in lieu of
Correct.
taxes.
So this
If-
is just a contribution from the
Correct, if
state.
we were putting a
even
$10
though
million grant, doesn't matter the
It's not
source,
gonna
it's the
affect the
general
tax cap.
fund, it doesn't impact the tax cap.
Do we have to use solar money to balance our budget, or can it go in a fund balance somewhere?
I talked to the comptroller's office and I was directed to put this in the A account. We have to put the pilot money in the A account. And the other directive was to put the host community benefits in the A account.
We know
So
that
it seems
money-
to me we're being penalized for having solar projects.
Pretty much. So
That's
my,
the long and the short of it.
so the
It's
question,
not a huge amount of money.
so the question I got on it though is, so we have to put the money into our income or revenue. We have no assessment. Wouldn't their assessment raise the overall value? If we were to do an assessment of the solar properties, wouldn't that raise our overall value?
But-
Cause that's not included. We're not including the value of the solar projects, but we are including the payments.
Well,
Because,
that
because
you're-
they're payments in lieu of taxes.
Sure, but
The reval,
when we do the value
Excuse me,
evaluation,
not the reval.
no, just a general evaluation, not a
The
rebound
general
necessarily.
valuation.
It's not
The
gonna,
value of those solar projects is not in how much property should be taxed.
Well, our valuation
Correct.
went from 403 million to 407 million.
Based on the town, not on the
But I
solar.
don't know if the solar, the one solar piece is part of that 407.
See, that's what I'm saying. If it's not part of that 407, but we are including the revenue from it, we're getting double screwed.
The pilot is based on levy, so levy assessment are different. So we look at I'm sorry, not the pilot, the 2% tax cap is based on levy. So we start with that as our base. That levy is determined based upon taxable, non-taxable real property.
Taxable, non-taxable.
When
So if someone pays a pilot, they're considered non-taxable.
they do not go into the normal. These solar projects would not have been in your regular tax levy. This is the homeowners, the businesses within.
But the money they
town.
give us goes against that.
It does, because if you follow there in your binder, there's a tax cap form, and the assessed value has essentially nothing to do with the 2% calculation. It's all based on levy, and can we raise the levy more than 2%?
Yeah, I understand that,
Yeah,
but it seemed,
I see what you're saying.
I understand that process. My question is, we've taken, money that wasn't included in the levy, that's not included in the levy, or is included in the assessment, that we're not gonna, 2%, it's not, and we're applying it to how much we can raise our taxes. The solar companies are not part of our levy. Correct?
it would not be as long as they're under a
But the
pilot.
money they give us is,
I was just looking to see what we,
So this is 2024.
yeah.
money is. It is.
Well-
I think it comes out as a subtraction. We put in,
But
I'm
you're
not
not
saying-
talking about the host community benefit revenue, you're talking about the pilot
That's
revenue.
correct.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And that's. only-
but then the valuation that Cindy's been working on as far as the state and the county and the 10,000 per acre or whatever, that's what you're questioning. I don't know that it
And so,
can be answered.
and so
I don't
when
know.
it
This is the
comes,
first time that we've had to talk about, money with the solar projects because they've started, so we've got the three, projects that have started and, yeah. So we have to budget for it, because we have signed agreements for that pilot money, we're supposed to get in January of 2025.
I understand that, but if they're also part of our tax levy, even though it's a pilot, wouldn't that give us more leeway than a penny?
Less than a penny.
When I went it, so, I took the 1.2. Let's see here. The 1.205941, and I did the form, I believe I did the form, but, let me see if we, printed that part, we did the 2024. The projected 2025 is on the other side.
So I see that, but my question would be with the 407,500, this value.
Yeah, that's the valuation.
That's the one question, 407, it's the valuation, but if you include even though, because their money's going in against our tax rate, wouldn't their assessed value go within the 407?
I can't answer that question. If that's included in the 407, we would have to ask the assessor.
You understand what I'm saying? And so here's
Is that where we
yeah.
would get the
here's
answer?
407 million roughly.
Yeah.
That's our assessed value.
Mhm.
The solars are not included in this.
I'd have to look at the roll to see how.
Yeah,
they're
that's my
That's
question.
the thing we gotta ask Cindy.
That's my question, yeah.
we'd have to
Cause,
look at the roll.
if we
it's
could,
not.
if it's not, and we could increase that, then this money, the 2% would actually be higher. A higher
Increase what,
dollar.
the 407?
Yeah, if we
You
include,
can't increase that,
No,
it's
no.
based upon the rolls.
sure, but what I'm saying is, are the solar projects on the rolls?
Even if they're not, that's the figure that's on the rolls right now. We can't just automatically. If they're not included, we can't just automatically say, okay.
But we count their money. I'm confused on how this whole thing's working.
This is nickel and dime. Do you think you got a problem now?
I know.
Wait till.
Well, that's why-
Wait till EDF kicks in.
That's why we
See
should
what- see what
resolve-
that does- See
that's
what
why-
that does to our tax
That's,
cap.
and we still have,
It's gonna be a negative.
how many
number,
more?
Randy.
Five other ones that are coming too. That's why we should address these questions now.
Exactly.
That's why we should address these questions now. We have five more Andy
This
EDF
should
coming.
say, instead of have a cup of tea, have a cup of beer. So I guess we'll have to,
I'm
get
just
that,
curious as to how that process works, and that's how.
yeah, well, and this is the first year we've had to go through this,
So,
financially.
so the
Been,
the
what,
four
how
oh,
many years we've been
the 407
doing
comes from the state.
it? No, that's our tax roll, that Cindy,
Okay, so what I'm wondering is, did she include the value of the solar projects in that 407?
Is your role online?
Because
But it shouldn't, and the reason why I logically think, and I'm just logic stepping this, is because we take that taxable assessed property, which the pilots would not be in there because they can't receive a pilot and then a tax bill on January 1, right?
right,
So that should be your taxable assessed property 407 without
But
the
then we have to
pilot
add the
money in it, without
pilot money
piloted
too.
properties inside that.
but
Yeah.
the pilot money then has to go into apply to our tax rate increase.
It-
Because that's what's happened.
Hmm.
And that's why it's only less than a penny.
What's the time frame for our current roll? When do we?
See, that's what I'm saying.
get it?
It's not
already
included
been-
here,
it's already
But
but
been
it is
determined.
included against this.
For 2025?
Yeah,
No, it shouldn't be 407.
I
think so.
just texted the assessor, see if she answers, okay?
So this is the taxable assessment value. Which the solar's not in here.
Sure.
But if you take
Because
the
they have a
total
pilot.
assessed value, that number's significantly higher.
But what I'm saying is if we can't,
that's
if we're
all
not
it says.
counting, is it,
That's right.
why are we counting, not against this, but we are applying it to that?
I understand.
That's my question.
Because the state says you have to apply pilot
State says you have to.
Okay, but
funding
Sure.
in the tax cap formula.
I understand
We
that.
understand that part.
But if we have to add the money, we should have
Well,
to add.
really,
Here too.
we understand it.
Yeah.
We understand it, we just don't understand.
Exactly.
So going back,
All right,
so going back,
So,
so let me
so
see
if I have
she-
some taxable assessed property, and again, I'm trying to understand this myself. So we have some taxable assessed property. I don't know what it is. We can't include that, it's not taxed, even though they're paying a pilot can't be considered,
The payment in lieu of taxes, so
Sure.
it is not a real property assessment.
okay?
it's an agreement outside of
Between
assessing
the three
to
entities,
to
town,
make the
school,
payment.
or in your case, town, school, well, maybe just three.
just the three.
Yep, town, school and county.
That's
I
an
still think the value should be.
So if
be
you
added,
have
that
$1
would be-
million project sitting
all
out in the
fairness.
town of
Yes.
Camden, and they go into a pilot.
Sure.
If we took the 295 rate and we applied what that would be, let's say, 'cause, it's $29,500. Their pilot might be for the first 10 years in the town of Canton, you pay $10,000 a year.
Yeah, I understand that.
So that's why that pilot wouldn't be added to your levy. That 1.1 million that you're looking at,
Mhm.
that would be your levy on taxable property. They're an apple and an orange. So the taxable assessed value would not include that $1 million for my example.
That's true, but it is applied towards the tax cap.
If it is a
Yes.
pilot, if it is a pilot.
Because it's a pilot.
So if we're gonna put five more, is there five more that are gonna be paying pilots here coming up? And then
There's a
ED
total
and
of
then-
seven.
And then EDF, a total of seven, so four more,
Community solar projects and then EDF.
so we're gonna be,
So we're right now, we have three.
so
that
we're gonna
we
be,
expect.
we're gonna be totally underwater. if it's a penny with only three, what's gonna happen when we get four more plus?
Plus a
EDF?
I see what you're saying.
I would like to question the state if that's actually the way it's supposed to be.
Oh, yeah. Or they just,
I already called the comptroller's office. If you wanna have a meeting with them,
Well,
we can all go down Syracuse to their office.
that,
I can't hear you, Wayne.
Napoli?
Yeah,
So-
Annapolis. he's
so,
the-
so
he's
the
the
way,
control.
moving forward, the way this is gonna
He's
work
the comptroller.
is in order for us to
Not a
stay
difference.
inside the tax cap, we're gonna have to seriously reduce
Yeah,
our town budget in the coming years. Seriously reduce our town budget. It's the only way we can stay
Cause
within
we
the cash.
won't be able to keep up.
Yep,
But then we need to talk about the rebound too.
yeah, the reval doesn't. I figured it out, if we revaled from 72 to 100, it's less than $20,000 difference in revenue,
what's that?
if you go.
What do you mean? If the taxable property is 407?
Sure, it's the same way that raising it, a certain percentage doesn't raise it that much, based on. What did I figure? I figured it last meeting, I don't have it, didn't write it down, it's not, it's compared to what the revenues we're talking about here, it's nothing. If we go to 100%. It's nothing. As far as in terms of the total budget.
No, and the only argument that I've heard is that it does have apparently an effect on
fairness.
on bonding
Oh, yeah,
for the
that too.
village. And so,
No, I can, because I was curious how much. I figured, took 72%, and I don't have the number I did last time we were sitting here.
We're down to 64.
Okay, but we were 72 at the, what I worked with, that's what it was. I figured out how much it would be if we'd assessed that at 100,000 by taking 72 and divided by 0.72 or whatever it was, or the number. And, I think it ended up being less, I think less than $30,000.
Hmm.
Maybe less than 20, I don't remember off that now, but.
that's,
I mean, I'm not saying I'm against 100%, I'm just saying it's not gonna generate that much revenue. It's gonna make, it's gonna help us for bonding, gonna help us as far as equity and assessments,
Mhm.
but as far as generating a lot more revenue, it's not gonna do that.
the only thing that's gonna generate more revenue is if somebody decides to give us more revenue, or if we increase taxes. That's the only way it's gonna happen. A reval does not
But even
generate.
at the
additional
rate we're going, even increasing taxes isn't gonna do it, because unless we go way over the tax cap.
That's just like, I mean, a year ago, the cost of living a year ago was 8.7%.
So now I could be wrong on this,
We went from
But-
295 to 295.
so the way.
0.66.
The way, yeah, but the way I think it's going is when all the solar projects are in line with the pilots and EDF, we're going to have to lower our budget. We're gonna have to go over the tax cap,
Yeah.
and it will result in a reduction in how much people are paying,
Well, and this is the
because we're
thing,
applying so much pilot money
this,
and
That's-
from all the solar projects to our revenue.
that's the fear that I've been saying, is the pilots are gonna raise hell with us. In that, therefore, a period of time. Well,
And then what happens when they run
Already-
out?
Uh,
There you go.
they're
Then
15 years from now, my guess is that the people that sitting at this table aren't gonna be sitting at this table, but the ones that
Probably
are
not.
sitting on the table, they're not gonna be happy.
Mhm.
They're not gonna be happy, and neither is the rest of it. Because you can't, again, and the worst one, of course, will be, yeah, no, cause no matter what you do there, that one there, if you go pilot route, there's an escalator in the pilot, you're gonna get more every year for 15 years. If you go the tax assessment route, the tax assessment's gonna go down every year
Mhm.
for 25 years down to nothing. And it's when they run out that all of a sudden, where that pile of money that you've been getting is gone, how do you make it up? But as they're saying, if it's a pilot, you got it included in there. So, you know,
Is that gonna
I've been,
happen?
I've been saying from day one that we need to take that money. And, you know, you continue budgeting the way we've been well, maybe not the way we've been, but, you know, and you take that, call it windfall money. And you use it, do things that need to get done, whether build a building or pave roads or whatever. And then when it's gone, you don't have those capital budget monies anymore. And your budget doesn't take a
Sure, yeah.
huge hit.
So what you're saying, if I'm hearing you right, is take the pilots out. Figure the tax cap on the ad, on the rest, and then increase the budget by the pilots. Basically,
Legally, we
No.
can't do that.
No,
we can increase the
well,
budget anywhere we
You
want.
can't take the pilots out.
No, just
Fire
for,
department.
No,
for-
just for
figuring.
math,
Just for the math part of it.
Yeah, take
just the math,
Yeah.
okay, say we got
You know,
two hundred
so
thousand
everyone, so get
extra,
2.9,
apply that to
5% will apply to
something,
407 without the pilots in it.
highway.
Come up
or
with that, what
whatever.
that money is. And then increase, put the pilots on top of that. So that everyone's still not the taxpayer is still only getting 2.95, whatever.
Mm.
Follow what I'm saying or not mathematically?
I do, but I also am doing what the comptroller said, where to put pilot money.
Oh, I'm
But
not,
you're
yeah.
just saying for,
He's just saying
for,
math,
Sure.
yeah, you
Math
still put it, you
purposes.
still put it in revenue, but we just don't include that in, you know, so. And
But
then
we
we figure out
increase-
what the
yeah.
tax increase would be afterwards, not so much we go over our pilot,
Yeah,
or
if
over
you,
the tax cap.
yeah, if you get $200,000, throw it on top of the highway budget.
And then figure out what
Yeah,
that is
yeah.
for the tax cap. Okay, well, the individuals are only getting 2.95. But our tax cap is going to be 3.61 or whatever it ends up being. After we put the pilots back in, then refigure. We could do it that way, without increasing individual people's taxes an exorbitant amount.
Mhm.
Did I not say that right?
I'm just trying to think it through. Hang on.
Yeah.
No,
me too, trying to think it through. In my view, we should override the tax cap now anyways. Just depends on where you wanna go. I showed you a chart up to $3 per thousand. Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna work that way now I'm thinking about it, because if we come up with a 3.6, we have to apply the 3.6, don't we, to everybody?
Everybody.
So it's not gonna work the way I said, now that I'm thinking
I
about it.
don't think it will. But it would take me time to think more about it and talk with Angela and Danielle and,
Don't you love the way the state has tied our hands?
I'm sorry, John, can you speak up?
No, it's unimportant.
3.6%.
Just an observation.
but anyway,
We can't hear our, I don't know this, we can't like hear our. Tax rate has to be applied evenly to everybody. We can't say, we're gonna increase. This 407 by 2.9. And then we'll take the pilots, that'll be our revenue.
No, you can't, no. The pilot money has to be in the revenues.
I agree with that, saying that's what the revenues are going to be. I'm agreeing with you on that. And you're gonna increase this by 2.9% plus the pilot money. And that's what our revenues are going to be.
The pilot money is part of the calculation. It's
I'm,
part of the balanced budget that I presented.
I,
You can't just pull that out and just,
I'm not pulling, I'm putting it in after I figure out the increases and then put it back in.
I like
Why can't we do that?
well, we never have with all the, you know, these aren't the first pilots we've received. You know, we have other pilot agreements that we receive money from, and we've always applied it. to
Sure,
the
but now
road.
we're coming to unique situations with
Yes,
the, with,
we
the-
are.
with the, all the solars and the big one.
Well, it's unique in the sense of, yeah, additional pilot money. But we've had pilots for, ever since I've been here, and Jim, when you were supervisor, there was pilots.
pilots have been around, they've been flying forever.
Yeah, some pilots are 20 years,
So I guess
40.
my general question is,
40.
is there a set formula that we have to follow in order to show our revenue?
Yeah, they spell it out here.
That's what I'm asking.
It's in your binder, they spell it in. It's all,
What do you, what do you mean?
there, it is, right there.
Yeah, all the tax cap information, I
Right.
gave it, the
That's-
formula,
Right
everything.
after, right after.
I
Not
read,
very
it.
far.
I didn't think,
Not very
I didn't
far.
think it was,
And there's a whole bunch of stuff, keep going, whole bunch of
I didn't think there
stuff,
was a,
whole bunch of stuff.
what I'm saying, I didn't think it was,
Well,
yeah,
you
in
went too far.
opposition to this.
Okay.
Opposition to what?
All right,
Where
and
this tax, where you get the tax roll stuff?
Let's see if it's in section one.
They didn't give you the city binder.
That's not true. Do not ever say that. It's after the yellow form, green, yellow, right there. It all starts right there. What is the real property tax cap? There's the formula. And then there's a whole
Pages and
PowerPoint about
pages and
tax
pages
cap.
of it.
And then the inflation and growth
Study it.
factors from 2012 all the way up to 2025.
but I'm not talking about tax cap,
I'm talking about
revenue.
Revenue.
I'm talking about revenue, not tax cap,
revenue in relation to pilots though.
town revenue. In relation, in regard, with regard to pilots.
Right, because you have to have the pilots, part of the tax cap stuff.
I agree with that. But when do you have to apply the pilot is my question. Before you figure the 2.9% or after? That's not spelled out here.
Just before we pass the budget, I have to submit a tax cap form.
I
So we have to apply it to plan for 2025.
I understand that.
So then I don't understand your question.
So, okay, so we're doing revenue. As far as revenue is concerned, figure out the, whatever the 2.9% on the 407 million, not counting the pilots. Put the pilots on top after we figure the 2.9%. Okay, that's what our revenue is gonna be.
Hmm.
And that's what we're gonna apply the tax cap against. Follow me?
The increase of 2.9 is over.
I just checked, that's what
Oh,
number she used before,
okay.
so I just use that number as a,
Well, that's our current tax
yeah,
rate.
yeah.
That's our current tax
Oh,
rate.
okay, so you got that.
Yeah, I just used the number that we used at the last meeting.
So
But if you
So-
look at all the revenues for the A account, there's more that. We have 15 different revenue sources, but if you look at just the A account,
But the only one who has to pay the taxes is the pilot. The tax cap is the pilots.
So your
Because the rest is coming
rationale,
from local funds.
your rationale for doing this is to stay under the tax cap.
Is to, my only revenue to this is so that the pilots don't down the road absolutely destroy the budget.
And so, and I think that we just need to decide, we've been backed up against the wall for so long now on the tax cap, it's coming in to really hurt us. It's really hurting us. and maybe that's, I don't know if that's the state's intent or whatever, but it is hurting us. And so, and we've always, you know, been wonderful to be able to say, and for another year, we did not exceed the tax cap. But by not exceeding the tax cap, I don't think we're being fiscally responsible. Because we are not even raising enough money to for pay increases. So I'm looking at what the cost of living right now is in the 3.2, 3.4 range percent. I did 8 budgets. Every single one of the budgets that I did. You go back and you can look at them. Somebody who's crazy enough to want to do that. I looked at what the cost of living was for that year. That's what my budget increased by. Whether it was 2%, 3%, 6%, whatever it was. I increased the budget by that amount. We can't do that and stay under the tax cap. But if we look at the 3% and you apply it to this year, it's, you know, what's the 3%? It's what, 9 cents?
9% increase,
9
which,
cents. So, so it's 9 cents. And so you go, oh my God. So 9 cents on, on $100,000 assessment,
Or per,
that's $9.
$9.
That's $9.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's still
but we,
isn't gonna give us a pile of money. We're gonna exceed the tax cap by quite a little bit. By, instead of less than a penny, we're gonna be up.
so if you look at that chart
Yeah,
that Jim is looking at, we have slowly since 2019 have been increasing it. We increased it 5 cents, from 2019 to 2020, we increased it to 9 cents.
there's a 9 cent increase.
And then we went back down, and then we started going back up again. Now. But this board chose since 2019 not to override that tax cap.
Hmm?
We've chosen since 2019 not to override that tax cap.
Before that, and even before that,
But there was no,
tax cap was even before
no
that.
pilots applied to these numbers either,
I don't,
which is what's put us in quite a conundrum.
No, the pilots were part of the budget, not the solar project, the pilots. We have other pilots. United Helpers, the
Sure.
Housing Authority, and you have a pilot chart
Yeah.
in your packet of who gets pilots now.
But not to the extent that we're applying now with the solars.
but even at that, if you did raise it. Would it give you a benefit? But at least it would cover the pay increases, but
What if we go?
But to
with the-
continue, but to continue going at less than a penny rate. It's gonna catch up with you big time, and so, I mean, if you can't afford 9 more cents. I don't know. But at least that's there next year and, you know, you can move forward. I think we're, well, I don't think, I know. The numbers tell us we're going backwards. Because we're raising less money than we are actually spending on salary increases by quite a bit. Let's go back to highway. So you said there's a position,
But can we come to a conclusion on this?
I think there's no question we have to go with tax cap.
Okay, but as far as crunching numbers just for the sake of it. Is that what you're still interested in doing? As far as the pilots pulling that out and then applying it?
I
I mean,
wouldn't,
that's
I
gonna
wouldn't,
take time to do.
and if it's allowed, you mean, and if you're gonna be allowed the way I'm talking to do.
I don't think we're gonna be allowed to do that, but that's a conversation with the state. As far as developing a budget.
I'm willing to follow up on it if you want. I know you're busy. They'll
Well,
talk
and
to
I'm
me, will
going
they-
on vacation.
Yeah, will they talk to me? Hello, the councilman?
Well, anybody can call the comptroller's office.
This one here ain't gonna kill us.
This one's not gonna kill us.
But, yes.
Yes, this one's not gonna kill
I
us.
hear what you're saying,
But
and
down the road, we're gonna be in deep
So
trouble.
maybe that should be a priority that we have a
Mhm.
conversation.
Yeah, I mean, this, we could like
With
Tim
the
says,
state?
we can get through this year. But as more pilots come online, we're gonna be in real fiscal trouble, I
So
think.
do you think, that was my
Am I,
question.
am I, think I'm right?
No, I think you're looking at it correctly. I mean, you're gonna have to have the pilots that are coming in the current year reduce that levy factor. So I just modeled a couple out here, sitting here, and I mean, I don't know what, I'd have to talk to the comptroller about what this does, but if we say, okay, we got 29,000 this year, this became our levy, then next year I just put in 80,000 just randomly. We have a negative adjustment
Yeah,
on that
That's what I
levy.
was just
Yeah.
saying.
we can try.
So I put in
Yeah.
And,
just
and in order to keep the tax cap, right? A negative adjustment to make,
To
meet,
make-
reach the tax cap.
Right,
Yes,
right,
yeah.
and so I put in, where does that balance, and it's, 1.5 million, 300, using my fictitious numbers, I mean, so it's not $100,000 jump, it's significant jump.
Mm,
So I
So-
was just working through a couple of just hypotheticals over here.
That's what scared me the whole time I was reading,
Yeah.
going through this.
So
And
do you think this is gonna hurt Canton Central too? I have sent you what Canton Central is gonna be getting right? for as far as pilots.
As far as,
They're gonna be, collecting 50,539 for 2025 and then 81,000. Like, is that gonna have the same negative
Well, if-
impact
if
on the?
they-
Well, if they have to follow the same formula we do, yeah.
well, but
I don't,
if they did they exceed the tax cap in this last budget? If they didn't exceed it at 6.5% increase, then they are in a whole lot better shape than we are. But yes, down the road, when they start picking up 500,000 or more in pilots,
Sure, and they're getting a
Which is-
higher percentage of the pilot than we are as well.
they're getting 67%, we get 8.
Yeah,
Depending on who you listen to out in the public, because there are people out in the public that think that we get all of the pilot money. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
we get little of it, the total.
because of the county
Right
formula.
now,
County
right
formula.
now and they're based, again, on tax rates. So the tax rates, the way they are, right now, Canton Central gonna get about 67%. County gets about 25,
And we get it.
and we
Seven or
get
eight.
8, and we get 8.
And I
So-
sent you those figures, Angela, I don't know
So,
that you got those.
If you got $100,000 pilot out there, we get $8,000, and the school gets 67.
So the school's gonna be affected, as your question, as these come online, the school's gonna be affected
You gotta look at that,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
significantly as well.
Who's an owner of one of the solar projects, like on a tax map
Um,
that has a pilot?
Well, yeah, but we can get through this, year, but we got some serious questions. back
these
there.
are the locations. Okay, so you wanna get back to the highway position, is that what you said? Jim?
Alright, so you're back to highway position, and so that's, that's not my decision about the position. But as far as the money goes, if for some reason that position doesn't get filled, then that 100,016 is what it amounts to, should go in that construction account. And so what that's gonna do is get it back to the 900,000 that you originally stated, because you originally stated that you're up in 900,000 and you'd put in for an additional HEO. And then
Then I told you that was.
then
an
you
error.
said that was a compromise, that highway superintendent asked for $1 million. And so you went, the compromise was 900,000, but instead of it being in construction, you put the position in there.
No,
That
my
was-
original intent was the position and the 900,000, but when we ran the numbers for the position, it came to be, because we had to maximize, the benefits, which is a family plan, it comes to around 100,000. So I did not change my budget message that, I decreased the construction back down. So that, and I told you that was my error. So the board, you know, I made my proposal, and what does the board think about having another position? Or cut, or not having another position and putting the money back in construction?
But my position is, it's set, highway superintendent, you know, he feels he needs another position and it's in the budget, okay, and the number's 807. If he feels that it's more important to him to put blacktop on the road than it is to have another position, okay. But that money needs to go in on top of that 807,
Yeah,
but I'm not gonna budge on EWR tops and paving York being in the revenue side of the budget.
Cause it's
Never.
not guaranteed, right?
Never,
It is not guaranteed.
it's not
no
guaranteed,
revenue is guaranteed,
not,
I know.
no
it's-
revenue is guaranteed, including that, and
sales
No.
tax is coming. How much of it's coming, we don't know, but, you know, this.
and we
this-
increased that
and-
amount too.
And I understand that
Projection.
nothing's guaranteed, but on those there, if you put them in as a revenue right now, and we don't see them come spring, what do you do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Right now, we don't put them in because we don't know if we're gonna get them. And so when we get from the state on what we're gonna get for chips, EWR, pops and whatever, if one of them may, then when we sit down to do our road construction plan for the year, we say, okay, now we have this, this is what we can do. But you're anticipating that it's coming. I don't like that at all.
I know,
And-
and you
and-
haven't liked it for the last 6
and-
years either, Jim. I've always felt that it should be in there. And, our accountant has agreed, but it's up to the board whether we put it in or not.
Yeah.
So that's my proposal. There's 4 of you, so you make the decision.
And the other thing is, that if you put that in the revenue side, it needs to go on that construction line, because that's what it's for.
And then we'll have to increase the amount we take out of fund balance. So,
If that's what, if that's.
so
what
it's like,
You had a balance, you submitted a, but you gave us a balanced budget with it not in there originally. Now you're giving us a balanced budget with it in there, and the way you balanced it is by not taking that money out of fund balance. And so, yes, I know, taking it out of fund balance, again, dangerous thing too. But I
So
don't think
what-
it's any more dangerous than putting in an unknown. A questionable one. And so,
so
always-
do the other board members, do you agree with Jim as far as taking those revenues out? I just need to know. I've
I
already
do.
made 2 proposals.
Mm.
So just, you know. And then, does this board support a position or taking the position out and putting it in construction? I just need to know. I've already presented. So, just,
well, I mean,
Let's
we're
have a
not voting
discussion.
on this, which committee you wanna meet? Doesn't matter to me.
Yep.
Either the committee can meet to discuss whether we want the position or the money in for
Cause
construction.
that's a question for the highway superintendent.
And so, I mean, he's the one that's impacted most by it, because all of a sudden there's, you know, there's a possibility of a warm body being out there, or maybe not, but. You know, I know that,
I mean,
I just, I have trouble after spending the whole year talking about how good we're doing as far as construction. All of a sudden, putting on the brakes and starting to back up.
but
If you
Jim,
if you put on the brakes is one thing, now we're backing up.
but Jim, our highway superintendent has been asking for help for quite some time. So, you know,
But you're talking about, there's 2 separate things here. There's 100,000 for for a position,
Mhm.
and then there's 193,000. You're putting it in as one, and it's not. They're two separate items, and, we're discussing them, you're trying to discuss them as one. They are two separate, so you got position as opposed to putting the money in construction, but you still have that 192,000. Or not 193 in those three items that, is going to be taken away and will not be used for construction. And that's close to a mile. Depending on what road you're paving. Tenth of a mile, so.
Well, we only have a certain amount of time
Sorry.
to get this budget done and then, have a public hearing and then vote on it. So we only have a certain amount of time. Here it is. October 9th, so, is the rest of the board in agreement to take out the revenue of the three highway? John, did you say yes, take it out?
I agree with Jim.
Randy,
I honestly don't have an opinion one or the other.
Wayne,
Yeah, because I'm same with Randy. I'm not really,
so we'll run it with taking them out.
So that means that we have to use fund balance for what?
Balance the budget.
Yeah, I know, where?
We've already,
Well, you have to run the numbers again.
Okay,
So if we
They-
take
they
out
shouldn't-
the position, that'll be additional money for construction, but we're still gonna have, I believe we're still gonna have to take money out of the fund balance.
well, it shouldn't be any different than the original that you gave us. It will be different.
Mhm. I'm pretty sure it will be. I don't know how much different.
What did we
I
do?
have to run the numbers, Jim.
What will we do that made it different?
For which part? Taking out the revenues?
Yeah, I mean, we had the original, the first budget meeting.
Mhm.
We had that
That was 300
without those,
something.
without those in. And then this one here is with them in. Now, if we take them back out, aren't we back to the original one that we, on our first
Most
meeting?
likely we will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that, what was the, do you have the original number? What was it, 350 something, or
490 or 395.
395? Yeah, okay. So if the board wants me to take that position out and run it with construction, we don't,
Like that,
time is,
gonna meet. We're meeting to talk about it. Warren,
He's here. Can we just ask him?
what you feeling?
As much as we need to help, I don't wanna go backwards on the roads. Use the spot and keep trying to plumb forward, get the roads back in shape.
okay,
I
so I'll run numbers, we'll take that out.
closed the highway committee meeting.
For everyone stopping by.
Uh,
I said, thanks everyone for stopping by the meeting.
All right. So then the other two items that we have talked about, we can't do anything until after executive session of the regular meeting.
I have
So-
something I wanna bring up,
Well,
okay? I wanna look at the town supervisors' pay. I'm going through it. I question why the town supervisor makes less than the historian. I mean,
historically.
historically.
I gave you an update on
Yeah, I
the
got it.
salaries. just
So
tonight.
I question that, because even though it's supposed to be a small part-time job, we all know that it's not. And I think just my personal feeling is, to have her making, or any town supervisor, not just Mary Ann, less than town historian, with the time that's put in, I just don't think it's. I just don't think it's right.
So that's a personnel issue that would have to be talked about in
Right.
executive session.
I don't want to bring it up in the public session.
You know, and on those, I mean, it's, again, it's a difficult thing because it's, you know, it's elected position and said.
I still think it should be reflective of that.
And I did it, I did it for 8 years, I did it the same salary for the whole 8 years, but at the time I was doing it. I was working, I had a job, I didn't need the money from being the supervisor, and I wasn't in here the whole day. And things were a lot different.
That's what I was gonna
Paper, the paper that goes on in that office today is just unbelievable.
say. Especially, again,
And-
that, but in lieu of all the solar.
And so, and I mean, there are towns that are doing it, but in a town like Canton, I don't see how somebody could actually be supervisor and have a job.
With, I just say that.
I don't know how they can do it. I suppose it can be done, but you'd have to have a staff that is, and
So either way, we're
for what,
paying.
Yeah,
well, for what she's
exactly.
being paid. And I mean, they said, and there's supervisors positions that pay a whole lot more, but again, I was never here for the money, but I don't have to be here all the time either. So
I'm not even,
here.
I'm not
here
even
as
saying
much
it's
as I choose
because
to
of the
be.
money. I think the money should be at least reflective of the amount of time that whoever supervisor's putting in, at least more reflective than what it is here.
Well,
That's just my opinion.
and so, like I said, again, uh, no big secret. I'm on state retirement. This is my 32nd year. But they always base the state retirement on your salary. And if that was a fraction of full time, then that's what you got. So I ended up being credited for 14 years of service. And so I get checked for $203 a month. Wonderful. But you know, when you gotta spend as much time today being supervisor as it requires, because
Well, I'm just gonna say the duties have increased substantially in the last 5 years. I did get a thing from Cindy.
You should know whatever that meant.
You want me to read it?
Go ahead.
So the question was, are the solar assessments in the rolls? No. The only way the solar assessments will go on the roll is when they are given a start date, and it has to be before March 1st. So,
But we have to try the pilots as soon as we get them. So they start to pay the pilots before the start date?
according to the agreements we have signed with the IDA,
Yeah,
we're supposed to be getting the pilots in
yeah,
January.
the
of
pilot
2021.
agreement.
Before the start date.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't, that.
Yeah.
So 15 years, it starts when it starts and it'll end 15 years later. But yeah, but as far as assessing, so like, they will all be assessed because they gotta pay fire tax. And
Mhm.
so she won't put them on the rolls until March, the ones that are up and running. And so that figure will be used next budget time
Fire.
to determine fire for 2025. Because those fire and the chargebacks or whatever those, the funny lines there that the county has, so
Mhm.
that where they can, county can play their games with. So,
But according to Angela, even when the assessment comes through, we can't apply those to that tax because they're not.
I don't see where they can go on the levy. I mean, it's
That's what I mean.
definitely a question for Cindy. It's her wheelhouse, but I don't see, you can't collect on both ends. You can't give them a levy for town tax and take a pilot on the side. Right?
Well, it's now what pilot in lieu of taxes is.
But it's
In
usually
lieu
a
of- in lieu of
reduced
your-
rate.
That's right, in lieu of your taxes.
We have $1 million assessment, I might pay $2.95 on mine, but if you have a pilot, you might be paying $1.86.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But it's still part of the assessment, isn't it? The levy. Even though they're paying a lower, they get, because of their agreement, they're paying a lower rate. Isn't it still part of the levy?
But when we calculate it for budget purposes, we wouldn't have those properties can't be included.
As far as the
And-
percentage, which is why I wonder if we can do it the way I said it.
But I think, you know, Cindy's
I don't
been,
know if I can, I'm just throwing the idea out
Mhm.
there.
there's a state formula and then Cindy's been working with the county, but it's the value of the land that the solar projects are going on. I think that's what the and I think other communities have assessed the land at like 8,000 per acre.
Change
6,000 per
change
acre.
from agricultural to commercial, right?
And I think,
But-
Cindy was looking at 10,000, but if that's the assessment of the land.
That's the land and that would
Right.
be reflective in our taxable.
Yes,
The one that, the fire departments or whatever, that's gonna be the actual assessment on the value of that project. So if they're building a $5 million project, there's a formula out there that the state, that they can use, that's formula was generated by the state. They
mhm,
plug in everything. Now here's the assessed value of it. Has nothing to do with school, nothing to do with that, but
So-
that figure will be used by
Say what you said about the land again?
workers' comp.
The land, the value of the land does go on the tax assessment?
Stop, that's, now we're getting into executive session,
yeah, we'll, yeah.
because there's
some
there's-
legal-
some legal issues, regarding that.
Yeah, that
And
one piece.
we need to, because there may be challenges to what
Okay,
how it can legally be assessed.
All right, any other issues for tonight's budget meeting? We're going to have a third one.
Yeah.
And I did put on the agenda for the regular meeting that we have to set a public hearing. So we gotta look at our calendar
And so,
for the
yeah.
next one.
And so, you know, you're gonna do some recalculation. I would go there with, you stopped at $3. Go to,
Well, we'll talk about that at the regular, after our public hearing tonight.
Yeah, so-
Right, overriding the tax cap, and then we have some executive session items to talk about. Regarding the budget. Cause it has to do with personnel and potential agreements.
All right, let's throw some dates out.
I didn't hear you.
Let's throw some dates out.
I'm gonna have to go get my calendar.
or to be such a pain.
No, it's not a pain at all.
It's thought provoking.
It is.
It's good stuff.
But maybe I don't know the answers, that's why I asked questions.
depressing, John.
It is, but we need to think about it.
Yeah.
We
gotta
can't
do
bury our
something.
heads in the sand.
We gotta
you know what I'm
do,
saying?
we have to do something now before it's 7 solar
We need
projects
to be-
plus
We
EDF.
need to be
and we're
proactive here.
millions of dollars in the hole.
Yep. We may not be sitting at this table, but we'll probably still be living in this community, so.
Mhm.
How much are, Stephen, what, the dash cams, how much are they?
No, I won't be sitting.
Don't hold me to it, I
I'm
think
a
it's,
You might be.
I don't wanna throw a figure out.
Okay.
I'd have to look,
But-
it's due in December, so it's been a while since I looked.
I liked your email.
Are we having a joint meeting?
The joint meeting's gonna be for
Everything.
the 29th possibly,
Tuesday?
if everybody thinks of the 29th.
Okay, I have it for the 23rd, but that's just a recurring, I think.
But the village couldn't do that.
Okay,
I knew 29th.
You can do the 29th for joint. joint
Did
for
you
the
see any-
29th.
What
Did you
time?
get any pictures?
It'll be at 6 p.m.
Either. I was,
Jim, can you do the 29th for a joint meeting at 6 p.m.?
what's the 28th? Something's the 28th. I just heard the 28th today. Oh, granddaughter's road test. 28th is good. She can bring me.
right. Um,
If she passes.
so,
What about the next budget meeting?
right,
That wasn't the
So-
budget.
That was a joint meeting.
After our-
Joint with the village.
regular board meeting and executive session, we'll see what happens with that.
So what
Then
is,
we can send the changes down, to Danielle and,
is joint meeting? What time's the joint meeting?
Angela.
Okay.
Next, we have, Monday, the 14th is off. That leaves the 15th and 16th, but I'm supposed to be out to the local conference on the 16th.
So,
Remember, I'm out from the 17th to the 23rd.
so if the joint meeting is at 6 o'clock,
Yeah,
can we meet at 4 on the 29th?
that would be up to Heidi and how her schedule is as well. It's at 4 on the 29th.
Yep.
All right, hopefully we'll have, another
Then we're,
budget to look at. I think
Final.
we can get it done, Danielle, you know, I gotta give credit to Danielle. Like the turnaround and all the changes, woof, and
She does a great
Angela,
job.
and, you know, certainly Christie crunching numbers, and it's an amazing race, actually.
you wouldn't want this during tax time.
With-
Well,
During tax
But
time.
October 15th is a big tax deadline. For all the people on extension, they're due on the 15th.
Okay, so shall we, the 29th at 4? That's good with you, Heidi?
First impact.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can do it.
Okay,
A lot of eggs.
so we'll have to put out
Big time this year.
2 agendas, one for the
Because of
joint
that.
meeting and one for, okay, budget. All right, we'll get our running shoes on that.
I don't run anymore.
Okay, with that being said,
45 million.
I need a motion to adjourn at
New
5:14, it looks like.
So moved.
There's a second?
Okay, fast.
5:10.
Looking for 9.
Oh, I'm looking at my little black
Check.
pen.
Yeah.
You have 5:10?
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder why I have
It will
that.
be there.
Who made the
All right,
motion?
so at 5:10,
Randy,
Randy, I need a second to adjourn.
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. All right, y'all have time to go get a bite to eat before, 5.